For I do not want you to be ignorant of the fact, brothers and sisters, that our ancestors were all under the cloud, and that they all passed through the sea. They were all baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea. They all ate the same spiritual food and drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank from the spiritual rock that accompanied them, and that rock was Christ. Nevertheless, God was not pleased with most of them. Their bodies were scattered in the wilderness. Now these things occurred as examples to keep us from setting our hearts on evil things as they did. Do not be idolaters, as some of them were. As it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink and got up to indulge in revelry. We should not commit sexual immorality, as some of them did. I apologize. And in one day, 23,000 of them died. We should not test Christ, as some of them did, and were killed by snakes. And do not grumble, as some of them did. They were killed by destroying the angel. These things happened to them as examples and were written down as warnings for us, on whom the culmination of the ages has come. So if you think you are standing firm, be careful that you do not fall. No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. And God is fruitful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, He will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. Therefore, my dear friends, flee from idolatry. I speak to the sensible people. Judge for yourselves what I say. Is not the cup of thanksgiving for which we give thanks a participation in the blood of Christ? And is not the bread that we break a participation in the body of Christ? Because there is one loaf. We, who are many, are one body, for we all share the one loaf. Consider the people of Israel. Do not those who eat the sacrifices participate in the altar? Do I mean then that food sacrificed to an idol is anything? Or that an idol is anything? No, but the sacrifices of pagans are offered to demons, not to God. And I do not want you to be participants with demons. You cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of the demons too. You cannot have a part in both the Lord's table and the table of demons. Are we trying to arouse the Lord's jealousy? Are we stronger than He? I have the right to do anything, you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but not everything is constructive. No one should seek their own good, but the good of others. Eat anything sold in the meat market without raising questions of conscience, for the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. If an unbeliever invites you to a meal and you want to go, eat whatever is put before you without raising questions of conscience. But if someone says to you, "This has been offered in sacrifice," then do not eat it, for both the sake of one who told you and for the sake of conscience. I'm referring to the other person's conscience, not yours. For why is my freedom being judged by another's conscience? If I take part in the meal with thankfulness, why am I denounced because of something I thank God for? So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Do not cause anyone to stumble, whether Jews, Greeks, or the church of God, even as I try to please everyone in every way. For I am not seeking my own good, but the good of many, so that they may be saved. Amen. It is Friday, July 11th, 2014. This is your host, Mike Callahan, and this is the Watchman News, and that was 1 Corinthians chapter 10. Alrighty, let me get my screen changed here, and we'll get on with the news in 2 minutes. We got a lot of stuff to cover and go over tonight. Alrighty, and without any further ado, here's news in 2 minutes.
Welcome everyone to another episode of News in 2 Minutes, bringing you the news that you need to know every day. Let's begin. Ukrainian forces are continuing a heavy offensive against anti-government and pro-Russian separatists within the country, with reports showing that the Western-backed government may be preparing for its largest attack on anti-government sentiment and action in recent months. As the fighting continues to intensify within the region's most volatile anti-Western crisis in recent history, analysts are warning that a push by numerous European nations in their pressing of Russia to remove assistance for pro-Russian rebels under threat of sanction or action could lead to a disastrous confrontation between the powerful and nuclear-capable nations. Dozens of wildfires are being reported across Canada, calling for multiple mandatory evacuations across the region. Officials with NASA have released satellite imagery displaying the breadth of the fires, with data from the Geostationary Operational Environmental Satellite showing smoke from the fires canvassing a growing portion of the American Midwest and leading to calls for containment across the continent. In related news that is missing from most European agencies, large swaths of wildfires have been spotted by NASA's Aqua satellite in one of Russia's remote wilderness regions, with officials warning for the preparation of smoke inhalation and the dangers of numerous byproducts released from large wildfires. Pediatric urologists and epidemiologists at the Children's Hospital in Philadelphia have published a study following the discovery of a link between warming localized temperatures and kidney stones. While the information contained within the study is being pursued for the onset of health problems associated with localized changes to a population's climate structure, physicians and health directors throughout the entire world are noting a sizable increase in the onset of health issues that cannot easily be linked to environmental differences, leading experts to call for regional information gathering and awareness of a possibly unexplained link between what is happening throughout the world and the effect that it is having on the population's overall health. And to wrap things up, experts are warning of continued danger as independent organizations see a spike in extreme coastal flooding. Hunger and disease continue to pose daily survival problems for affected residents of the 2010 Haiti earthquake, reminding the community of the need for preparation before a disaster strikes. Experts are warning of the continued oceanic contamination of radiation following flooding in Japan, and a 5.2 in Tonga completes today's quake watch. And that's it for this episode of News in 2 Minutes. Research links are available at fullspectrumsurvival.com, and check back tomorrow for more news that the aware need the most.
All right, that was News in 2 Minutes. Again, big thanks to Full Spectrum Survival. Does a wonderful job every single day on that. He was gone for a little while, several months ago. He was off the air, and wow, it really, I missed listening to his show every single morning. All right, we got News in 2 Minutes out of the way. Let's real quick get Suspicious Observers out of the way. Again, the links for both of these are down in the About tab. Feel free to click on them, check out so you can see the videos. I don't have express written consent and all that good stuff, so that's why I do not show the video. I just play the audio for you. Anyway, here's what Suspicious Observers has to say. Pay close attention to what he talks about the pole flip, the solar pole flip. It's pretty interesting.
Good morning, folks, and thank you, Hubble. We'll start with the tip of the hat to the new electric universe theorists, a string of stellar brilliance in a near-perfect helix, evenly spaced over 100,000 light years. That's purely electrical. On your mark, Thunderbolts. Ready, set, go. A fireball streaked across the sky in southeastern Australia last night, but it was not wholly unexpected. It took the track of a Russian rocket booster meant to be space junk and then to have an illuminating return. Now I'll get a little angry. Our government will do anything to push its own agenda when it comes to global warming. Now all you have to do is go to my channel page, find the climate change playlist, and you'll know why climate change is absolutely real, but also why the projections of warming have failed for 2 decades. One of the most damning pieces of evidence is Antarctica, gaining ice so fast it makes your head spin, but is indeed melting from the underside, which they blame on the ocean that ate their global warming and caused their predictions to fail. Meanwhile, they still haven't put underwater venting or volcanoes in a single IPCC climate model, despite find after find of such mega heating truly taking place beneath the only parts of Antarctica that are actually melting. Boom, roasted. Only noteworthy quakes of the day took odd locations rather than high magnitude. We still expect an uptick in the next 36 hours on the magnitude side of things. Been quiet for days. This is another successful Uyen storm formation, and this one is not heading north but due west towards the Philippines, which per our July 5th discussion with Dr. Uyen could be the quake trigger based on past observations. That line indeed crested Australia overnight. It's a pretty long convergence. Meanwhile, New Zealand still looks wetter, but at least it's not Antarctic air. In Europe, we see a lot of moisture ready to drop, but the worst of it should be along the convergence amplified by a reinforcing eastward drive. It's the North Atlantic low spinning counterclockwise above the high pressure cell to the south spinning clockwise, and they both push east at their meeting place and force that moisture to slam against another high pressure cell to the further east and make our storm convergence. In the United States, it's this simple yet again. Up goes the heat, up goes the moisture, and then tonight, down come the storms, widespread, up into Canada as well, and beyond just those top watch zones. But folks, we're about to see something very different coming. That northern low is going to get stuck in the northeast for days, and as it does so, its massive size will bring with it very chilly air, all the way down into the United States, darn close to the Arctic Circle. As our upper atmospheric flows like the polar vortices lose tight coiling due to lack of flaring, they will wobble and come down like this time and time again. Earth saw its third gamma burst in less than 36 hours yesterday, this last one coming out of the Perseus constellation. Solar wind is steadying nicely and doing so in a fairly normal range. Geomagnetic situation is quite calm. Flaring did get back up into M range once last night, but it was mostly a surface event. The sunspots are either large but decaying, turning away from Earth, smaller and still decaying, or they are shifting around without any solid magnetic mixing. I'd even say it's a surprise these guys popped a flare at all, although not as surprising as the silence of the departing groups. Some vindication. I won't name names of those who said the solar pole flip happened months ago and had also claimed it months before that, but Stanford is now updated, and as of late June, it's definitively not done flipping. North needs to be positive on our star this coming cycle. Negative coronal hole Earth-facing down south. Supermoon on our doorstep and a bottoming out of sunspot numbers. No big quakes for days. Should be changing soon. Eyes open. No fear. It's 6:25 a.m. Eastern Time, and that's the news. Be safe, everyone.
All right. Thanks to Ben Swan and Suspicious Observers. Keeping an eye on our big star up there. Before we really get started on anything, I want to just show you how to do something real simple. I told everybody several shows ago that they need to get a copy of three things: the NDAA 2012, the Internment and Resettlement Operations document, and the Agenda 21 document. So real quick, let me show you how easy it is to find and get your own copy, bona fide copy of Agenda 21. It's real simple. I'll go to a desktop view so you can go with me in doing this. Okay, there we go. Oh, don't you love that? Okay, so we're on a desktop view, and so I'm going to start out where I was with the Bible Gateway. I'm just going to click the Home tab. That's all. I'm right at Google. See, I don't believe in a middleman or anything like that. So, you know, if somebody's going to watch what I'm searching or looking up or whatever, I want the government just to do it flat out themselves. You see what I'm saying? Anyway, all jokes aside, all I'm going to type in here is I'm going to type in UN Agenda 21 PDF. That's all I'm putting in. All right, now what we're going to do is the second listing there shows I've already clicked on it before. Is that if you look at it, it's www.un.org. This is their website. I'm not getting this from, you know, Democrats Against UN Agenda 21 or sustainabledevelopment.un.org, which is still UN. Okay. No, I'm going straight for the PDF with cover. Right from them. See, and I just click on it. That's all I did. It's all there. All of it. It's 70 pages in total. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click. And if you're on a Mac or a phone, I don't know what to tell you. But I'm going to right click and I'm going to save as. I'm just going to save it to my desktop. I'll rename it Agenda 21, and you can get Adobe Acrobat Reader for free if you don't have any type of PDF reader. I'm just going to click Save. That's it. That's it. That's all I have to do. And it's right there, Agenda 21. I click on it, I can open it up. Here, let me close the actual web page for it. And this is it. I've got it. It's all my own. It's all good. It's got everything in there that you need to know about Agenda 21, and you need to know every bit of Agenda 21. It is one of the most scary things that you've ever seen. It's really, really, it's sad. It's a total takeover of everything as we know it. It's a total takeover of our liberties and our freedoms and absolutely everything. And it's all in that document. This is for real. And once you start reading through that, you're going to be like, wait a minute here. I see this happening in my town or in my city. You're going to see it. You're going to notice it. They're actually pretty far along in the plan, to tell you the truth. So when you read it, you're going to be like, oh, okay. So you're going to be able to see the past, you're going to be able to see the present, and then you're going to be able to see the future. And then after you read it and you see that future, yeah, come on over to the Facebook page and tell me again how it's not important that you have this information. Because it's some of the most important things you can know right now. Anyway, let me go back to that weird, getting lost there, and pull back up our image. So I wanted to do that. I wanted to walk through how you can get your own bona fide copy of Agenda 21 so that you can have it on your desktop. I want you to be able to have it on your computer or your phone or your tablet or whatever it is that you like to utilize, because you really need to read it. You really need to read it. And there was other things I had up there too. You may not have noticed on my desktop that I have copies of the Book of Enoch, the Book of Yasher, the Book of Apocrypha. They're books that are they were taken out of the Bible, and those are probably my three favorites that were taken out of the Bible. I've almost read all the way through all three of them, and you will not be disappointed. The Book of Enoch, the Book of Yasher, and the Book of Apocrypha. Very important things to know, because, well, to be quite honest, there's so much information that is missing out of the Bible that we know it as, that it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So again, you can get those. You can get those if you would please. But get Agenda 21. That's your first goal. Get Agenda 21. You've seen a lot of it was pictures, right? So you don't have to, they're pictures. You don't have to read every single page, So probably more than half of it's probably tables and pictures and stuff like that. Anyway, a little something humorous there. So let me get started with the first bit of the news. There was, and I don't have a news story pulled up for this, but there was unless they downgraded, it was a 6.8 earthquake, right around, like, I believe 100 miles off of the coast of where Fukushima is. And there was a tsunami warning, and I'm sure by now the tsunami would have hit. I really don't have any other news or information about that. It'll come in tonight. If there's anything really important ever, I mean super, super important, I will make a video and upload it on weekends and stuff, because we don't normally broadcast on the weekends. And every once in a while on the weekend I might do a little Bible study video or something like that. I found myself very restless last weekend. I didn't have any shows to do. I didn't have, so I mean, it was kind of, I don't know, I didn't know what to do with myself, I guess. So anyway, I wanted to give you a little insight on what's going on with that earthquake over there. Again, I'm sorry I don't have more details for you, but I will say that it's kind of disturbing, um, to say the least. So hang on here. Let me pull up our first story, which is interesting, I guess you could say. Guess I could give you the headline, huh? Norway banks hit the largest ever DDoS attack. Anonymous takes credit. Okay, Anonymous, if you don't know who they are a hacker web ring. It's a bunch of independent people, a bunch of individuals that sometimes they act in concert, in unison with one another to achieve a goal, usually on the internet involving hacking, and usually for a good purpose. Be careful whenever you hear Anonymous takes credit. Take that with a grain of salt. Take it with a very, very, very small grain of salt. But Norway's top financial institutions have been hit in what happens to be a coordinated cyber attack, the biggest ever the country has experienced. Anonymous Norway has been responsible for the operation, or may be responsible for the operation. The Tuesday attack targeted at least 8 top Norway companies, including Central Norges Bank, Squarebank 1, Danske Bank, and insurance companies. Storebrand, and I don't even want to pronounce that, 3 Norwegian airlines and a big telecommunication company may also have been affected by the same attack. The malicious bombardment with requests caused traffic problems for their website and disrupted access throughout the day. The affected banks' online payment services as well. The scale is not the largest we have seen, but it is the first time it has hit so many central players in the finance sector in Norway, said the head of every security team. The company said the attackers used a vulnerability in the blogging platform WordPress and other venues to hit the website. They didn't appear to try to hack the target's networks and try to steal any personal information. The source of attack was abroad. Now let me explain, I probably should have did this, a DDoS attack, right? A DDoS attack is when you just slam a particular server, right? A server is what holds either data or a website or both. Okay, so a DDoS is attack. It's a denial of service attack. It's when you just keep hitting that server, hitting that IP address over and over and over. It's like if you had a super fast computer, right? And you went on a website and you just kept hitting refresh as quick as you could. Okay, but then imagine like hundreds or thousands of people doing that at the same time. Okay, what it does is it causes such an influx of traffic on the computer that it basically slows it down, it bogs it down, and you do that for long enough and you'll crash the server. Or either that or you'll cause it to be just so busy that normal people trying to access that data or that website or whatever, a website is just data, they won't be able to access it. It just won't work. So that's what a DDoS attack is. And I have a lot of questioning that I'm doing about this because I just don't see Anonymous taking credit for it. I guess it's possible. Anything's possible. But I just don't see Anonymous taking credit for it. And I take it with a grain of salt. I really do. Maybe they did do it, and maybe they did own up to it. But I'll just say from what I know of Anonymous, that just does not sound right. Okay, and it sounds to me like they're kind of maybe going to lead up to something with that. Maybe a year ago or so, there was a larger attack that was done, and I can't remember who the attack was done on, but supposedly Anonymous had done it, and I'll just let you know that Anonymous did not do it. Yeah, so when you hear news and stuff, sometimes you got to be a little bit questionable about that news. So the next thing, this is interesting. I've talked to you about how there's, and I still haven't looked it up. You can yell at me if you'd like, but I think it's called the Gulf Airstream or Gulf Current Airstream. It's a Airstream, right? We've talked about the jet stream. I'm sure you've seen the jet stream. You watch the weather on the news or whatever. You know what the jet stream is. Okay, it goes across our country. and it's just a band of air that rushes across the country. Well, this Gulf Stream is another airstream that comes in from the Atlantic Ocean, like somewhere around, say, well, where Florida is, not all the way down at the tip, but comes up and then it kind of turns and it travels up the East Coast, right? And what that does, or what it did do, is it kept the jet stream, I'm going to say the word balanced, but it kind of kept it in place. It held it up in place. And that has, over the last several years, slowed down to either a slow crawl, you know, all the way up to a stop. I mean, it's not doing much anymore. That is what is causing this this next story. I just wanted to fill you in on what's causing the next story. The headline is Poor Man's Polar Vortex to Make Shocking Summer Return in Eastern U.S. Next Week. Call it the Ghost of the Polar Vortex, the Polar Vortex sequel, or the Polar Vortex Revenge. Meteorological purists may tell you it's not a polar vortex at all. However, you choose to refer to the looming weather pattern, unreasonably chilly air is headed for the parts of the northern and northeastern U.S. at the height of summer early next week. Bearing a haunting resemblance to the January's brutally cold weather pattern, a deep pool of cool air from the Gulf of Alaska will plunge into the Great Lakes early next week and then ooze towards the East Coast. Of course, this is July, not January, so temperatures forecast to be roughly as much as 30 degrees below average won't have quite the same effect. But make no mistake, in parts of the Great Lakes and upper Midwest getting dealt with chilliest air, hoodies and jeans will be required. Highs in this region could well get stuck in the 50s and 60s, especially where there is considerable cloud cover. Wednesday morning's lows may drop into the 40s over a large part of the central U.S. Remember, this is July. The heart of the chilly air mass will probably just skirt the East Coast, but temperatures are likely to be about 10 degrees below normal. Highs may struggle to reach 80 in D.C. next Tuesday and Wednesday, with widespread lows in the 50s, even 40s in the mountains. The pattern may only last a few days, but will probably set some records, especially around the plains and Great Lakes, where water temperatures are still depressed from the frigid winter in which ice remained on Lake Superior into June. What's behind this unusual winter weather pattern crying for the dog days of summer? A lot of it's simply chance, randomness. But okay. No, it's not. It's not. That's not what it is. I just explained to you what it is, why the jet stream is all out of whack, why it's dipping down. And that's only one of the reasons. There is geoengineering going on. You know, I'm sorry, but chemtrailing and geoengineering, that is all real. And again, I don't have any brought up, but there are government websites that speak about it. There are university websites that speak about it. How can people still walk around and say it doesn't exist, it's not real, it don't happen, or whatever? You know, the sand is only so deep, and I can't understand how people can bury themselves so deep. But it reminds me, yesterday when we were having our discussion, at the end of the show, I couldn't remember. There was something that was important on my mind, and I couldn't remember it, and it dawned on me, of course, after the show. And I'm going to bring it up now because this is the perfect time. There's a gentleman who was in the military, retired. I believe he retired honorably and all that, out in the military. And he talks to preppers and whatnot. I want to say his name. Let me pull this up. And if I'm mistaken on the person that said that, I apologize, but I don't think I am. I think I'm correct. I believe it was Retired Sergeant Major Dan Page. If I'm not mistaken, that's who it was. Retired Sergeant Major Dan Page, which, by the way, yesterday did an excellent interview on True News. If you'd like, go to truenews.com. That's TRUNEWS.com. Again, that's TRUNEWS.com. You click on their radio, or you hover over the radio tab, you click to listen now, you'll come up to a page. It will, you'll have like today's show. Then, of course, the show I'm speaking of would be Thursday, July 10th, 2014. Retired Sergeant Major Dan Page. And the interview yesterday was astounding. It was astounding. So I urge you to check that out. It's the True News, the July 10th, 2014 show. It's like 56 minutes long or something. I've got a copy of it downloaded. It's that remarkable. Anyway, so if I'm not mistaken, it was this particular gentleman that was asked, if you could pick a movie to describe the future of this country, what would it be? And I'm trying to paraphrase here as to what his reply was, but I believe he said, I can't do it in one, but I can do it in two. The Day After Tomorrow and Red Dawn, the new Red Dawn. But then at some point, he added the movie, or the TV series, I believe it was him, at some point added the TV series Revolution. And I'm telling you right now, I'm going to stand behind what he says, fully. Expect an ice age in this country. Now, I can't tell you if it's going to be a minor one or a major one, or, you know, and I know that may sound nuts, but you can think it's nuts all you want. Look at the weather systems. If that weather system looks normal to you, then you can call me nuts. If you don't know what that weather system looks like in comparison to what it looked like 20 years ago, then maybe you need to educate yourself. But don't just jump and think that what I'm saying sounds way far out there, because it's not. It's not. Weather is something I've studied ever since I was a child. When I was a little boy, I was scared to death of tornadoes. And I mean, I'd hear the tornado sirens. You never seen a kid flip out worse than me. Thunder, lightning, then the tornado sirens, I would go ballistic. And I got over that fear, and I wound up becoming a storm chaser. I started chasing storms when I was 17 years old. But I did that through education. You know, literally, as a child, when I was in grade school, I was going to the school library and checking out books about weather systems. And I started learning about weather, and I started to learn about tornadoes. And the more I learned, the less fear I had. Next thing you know, I was an idiot out there chasing after them. So anyway, wrong movie. The Day After Tomorrow, Red Dawn, because he definitely sees an invasion of this country coming, as well as I do. And I've been on everybody about this for the last several years. We are going to lose the power grid. I promise you, we're going to lose the power grid. And so the TV series Revolution might be somewhat, you know, helpful. And I do say somewhat because, again, it's going to be a combination of all three. Just watch. What's her name? Help me out here, even though I know you can only hear me and I can't hear you. Janet Napolitano, in her speech that she gave when she announced that she was leaving Department of Homeland Security, she said that we were about to have a natural disaster, something to the effect of like man has never seen. Okay, go look it up. Don't take my word for it. Those words came out of her mouth. So obviously, our government knows something that they aren't letting us know about. So, and it's some natural disaster, and I believe that's what it is. I think we're headed to a small ice age. Don't believe the global warming. Definitely believe climate change. Climate change is a very real thing, but let me tell you something. We didn't start it, and we can't stop it. It's a natural cycle the Earth goes through. I'm not saying just pollute away, and that's all good, you know, because it's not. But they're just doing this. They're just telling us the global warming and CO2 and all that. They're trying to extort us out of money. And a lot of people are starting to figure that out. And it's also fear tactics. It's also a distraction. It's a bunch of, you know, there's a lot of distractions today. I think what's going on in Israel is terrible. And Palestine. I think they both need to grow up and stop shooting rockets at one another. I mean, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to stand behind Israel, and I'm not going to stand behind Palestine. I'm an American, and I'm worried about this country. And my business, my nose, everything is in this country. And I could care less what they're doing over there. That doesn't make me anti-Semitic. So it's the last thing I want to hear. I'm not anti-Semitic. I just, I'm not interested. I'm really not. They want to cause problems over here, then it's time for us to worry about it. But we need to get back that type of sense of mind and stop worrying about what other countries are doing and everything else. So wanted to give you a little bit of why I thought that was important. I wanted to give you a little bit of why I thought that was important, and wanted to tell you about those movies. It fit for yesterday, and I had a perfect opportunity again to bring it up today. So let's get on to the next story. DoD sends pink slip letters to soldiers fighting in Afghanistan. Let's see. In a stunning display of callousness, the Defense Department has announced that thousands of soldiers, many serving as commanding officers in Afghanistan, will be notified in the coming weeks that their service to this country is no longer needed. Last week, more than 1,100 Army chaplains, the men and women who know best how to fight this enemy because we have experienced multiple deployments, were told that they will be retired from the military, from the Army. The overall news is not unexpected. The Army has ended its major operations in Iraq and is winding down in Afghanistan. Budget cuts are projected to shrink the Army from its current 52,000 troops to 44,000, the smallest size since before World War II. What is astonishing is that the Defense Department thought it would be appropriate to notify deployed soldiers, men and women risking their lives daily in combat zones, that they will be laid off after their current deployment. As one Army wife posted in militaryfamily.org, on some level I knew that the drawdowns are inevitable, but I guess I never expected to be simultaneously worried about a deployment to Afghanistan and a pink slip because my husband's service is no longer needed. So, I'm telling you right now, this is not just simple a drawdown. This isn't a cutback or anything like that. It's not just a simple cutback. It's not just a simple we don't need them anymore. They're purging the military, and I've been saying this for years too. A lot of the things I'm saying to you now, that I'm showing you news stories now, to mainstream news stories to validate the things, I've been saying them for years, and I've been getting laughed at. And now it's time for the laughing to stop, because it's happening. They're trying to weaken this country, okay? All the returning veterans, a lot of them are getting their right to carry firearms taken away. A lot of them are being put on these terrible medications that actually do more harm than good. And it's sad. It's really sad, and it's all to weaken this country. It's all to weaken any type of resistance that they may get, and that's their goal. They want to be able to put their thumb down on us and make damn sure, I apologize for the word, that we can't do nothing about them putting a thumb down on us. That's what it's about. So, just keep that in mind. These poor guys, And on top of that, we got all the VA stuff going on that ain't right. We got, majority of the homeless people are veterans. It's sad. And I definitely am not a war type of person. I think we should be able to defend ourselves, but I think we need to keep our nose in our own business in this country and stop being the world police. But we do need a strong military. I mean, we got to defend ourselves. But that is here, not abroad. We need to defend ourselves here. We need to stop trying to twist every excuse we can to go get another country scared into joining the central banking system, which is pretty much the truth of it. So yeah, that's what's going on with the military. Now here's something that hits a little more home, and it's going to lead into a little bit of talk about Agenda 21. A year ago this time, me and my family, do a lot of crazy events. We were staying out at a campground just outside of a town in Illinois called New Douglas. And And this story that I'm going to be reading you happened just outside. In fact, New Douglas, there's nothing in New Douglas. It's pretty much just, you know, it's a small little bitty town, nothing in there, not even stores. So we used to go to the town I'm going to be speaking about. The name of the town is called Livingston. And we used to go there. In fact, that's where we had a post office box at. That's where the grocery store was that we had to go to get groceries. You know, so the town I'm speaking of, little bitty town, just giving you a little insight, you know, I used to live literally, it used to take us not even 10 minutes to get to the town from the campground. But here we go. Homeland Security. Feds swarm small town in bizarre unannounced show of force. Homeland Security agents backed by police SWAT teams, armored vehicles, and a Black Hawk helicopter staged a bizarre unannounced show of force in front of a school in a small Illinois town. I'm sorry, I'll be able to speak, I promise. Scenes which will exasperate concerns about the increasing militarization of the U.S. law enforcement. Residents of Livingston, Illinois, population 850. Yeah, only 850 people, folks. It's a small town. We're shocked to see agents from the Homeland Security, the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, and local police agencies swarm a field belonging to a grade school yesterday, with one local telling the news channel KTVI, when all the armored trucks started showing up and everything, it made me kind of nervous. One child said he thought the spectacle was pretty cool, and that agents invited the local children to check out the choppers up close, despite the presence of weapons inside the helicopter. Gotta bring up, it's a gun! Ah! Jesus, people. Pardon me, Father. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. Oh, the school superintendent said he was not given any information about the operation beforehand. Despite authorities using school land as staging ground, the U.S. Attorney's Office refused to release any information on the purpose behind the operations. KTBI labeled the presence of the feds a mystery, although it subsequently emerged that the school was being used as a staging ground for a raid on a house 3 miles away. Authorities refused to divulge the purpose behind the raid or if anyone was taken into custody. Reporter Rocky Madden said that he learned that 10 police cars showed up at the house to conduct the raid, suggesting that the Black Hawk and the armored vehicles were merely on standby. The sheer number of feds present, in addition to multiple armored vehicles, military-style choppers, and 4 other vehicles in order to conduct a raid on a single house, clearly suggests overkill and will prompt more concerns as to the increasing militarization of U.S. law enforcement. Authorities routinely stage unannounced drills, often in the middle of the night, which terrify startled residents. Critics have asserted that the Americans are being conditioned to accept military-style policing as a routine occurrence. The purchase of armored vehicles firmly used in anti-terror operations overseas has prompted widespread concern that domestic law enforcement in the United States is becoming increasingly militarized and violent. A recent ACLU investigation into the issue decried the fact that American neighborhoods are turning into war zones. The SWAT tactics become more brutal, causing an increase in deaths, injuries, and property damage. Back in May, Indiana Police Sergeant Dan Downing admitted that militarization of domestic law enforcement was partly to deal with returning veterans who are now seen as a homegrown terror threat. A local Fox affiliate reported the cops are now armed for war against such threats. All right, I mean, if you don't see a problem with this, then maybe you're part of the problem. This ain't about our safety. The only one that can keep you safe is you. So, I can't impress that anymore. The only one that can keep you safe is you. And I've said it before in the show, and I'm going to repeat it again. Police, and I mean no disrespect in this, none at all. But police and firefighters, they are not first responders. They are not. They are second responders. We have to watch the language we use, because that can change our entire outlook on something. They aren't first responders. And again, I mean no disrespect with that, but they are second responders. Second responders. First responders are people that are there at the time of the incident. Those are your first responders. You can argue with me on that all you want, but it's a simple math equation. The first people there, the second people there. Okay? It's quite simple. Okay? So Don't allow a second responder to protect yourself and your family. Take the responsibility to become a proper first responder. Arm yourself. Okay, and I know that's a little bit away from the story there, but arm yourself, because you are the true first responder for yourself and for your loved ones and for your neighbors. You are. Most times, read the news. All the cops can do is show up, clean up, and do an investigation. That really doesn't do a whole lot of people a whole lot of good, now does it? But you have to take responsibility for your own security. And I just kind of jumped off onto a tangent there, because they always act like this is for security. You know, we have to do this so you can be more secure. That's bogus. That's bogus. You want to be more secure, put a rifle in your closet, learn how to use it, and for God's sake, teach your children about it so we don't see accidents. You know, I'm not around my children at this point, but and my youngest son, Rafael, he was too young to really do anything. But I mean, I was teaching Brett, which was the older. He was 8 at the time. I was teaching him. Family had an SKS and a Taurus PT-145 Pro, and I was teaching him how to disassemble the gun, clean it, reassemble the gun, teaching them, shooting safety, teaching them how to shoot, how to use sights, I wanted him to be familiar with firearms, because that takes the taboo out of it. Okay, it's no longer, oh, mom and dad's, they went over to the neighbors, I'm going to sneak in the closet, I know where they got their gun, and that's when you have an accident. It's no longer taboo, because you take them out and they shoot. Now, I didn't ever let him shoot the 45 because he was a little small for that. I didn't want to put big old welts on his forehead or nothing. He wasn't quite ready for that, but he had shot the SKS on occasion, and really bothers me I didn't get to take him further on his learning with firearms, but that's neither here nor there. Let's get back to the story now. What's going on is it is an obvious desensitization to the public, to all of us, for these events to happen. Now, I don't know what it is. Who knows? I don't know any more of the story than what I read you, so I don't know what they suspected these people of, if anything, or what was going on. But even if it was somebody in their house that was cooking meth, okay, let's use that as an example. Really? Department of Homeland Security? What happened to the DEA? Okay? And then here in Illinois, in that area, there's another organization called MEGSI, if they still, I guess they still exist, Metropolitan Enforcement Group of Southern Illinois. They are also a drug task force, and I do believe that the Illinois State Police is connected with them. However, and I'm not saying that's what it was. I don't know what it was. I mean, I have no idea. But come on now. I've seen, and the reason why I bring up, drugs is because I've seen that here recently pop up in the news, to where Department of Homeland Security, the ATF, and I mean, they bring all these lettered agencies involved and stuff for drug busts, and it just makes no sense to me. It doesn't, because we have lettered agencies to deal with that. We have the DEA as a prime example, and then you have your local, your county, your state police. So why do we need to bring in Department of Homeland Security, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms? I mean, if somebody is making drugs or whatever, and they happen to have a couple of guns, I really don't still see the purpose of having the ATF come. It's not like they're gun running or nothing. The ATF needs to pay more attention to Eric Holder and Barack Obama than what they do, some guy that's making drugs or selling a little bit of drugs and has a couple of weapons, for his protection. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it, I mean, it's just common sense. But where this fits in with Agenda 21, and again, if you will read Agenda 21, you will see you will see exactly, table of contents. Part 1, global charts on selected issues, agriculture, combating poverty, decision-making, education, energy, freshwater, health, information, oceans. Part 2, sampler of regional and national level information, combating poverty, health, annexes. It just gives you an idea. Let me open this up so I can read it. Let me make it bigger. Here's the preface, okay? The national implementation of Agenda 21. A summary provides an overview of the general status of national implementation of Agenda 21 based upon the national reports in 2002 country profiles submitted by governments to the Commission on Sustainable Development. The report in its entirety, complete with the tables and charts, is available at the National Information webpage at the United Nations Sustainable Development website with the following address. It gives the address. This published version provides an illustrative summary of a selection of both sectoral and cross-sectoral issues which are among these being addressed at the World Summit on Sustainable Development in Johannesburg, South Africa in 2002. The National Implementation Report was prepared by the National Information Analysis Unit in the Division for Sustainable Development of the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs. Since 1993, this unit has analyzed and maintained national reports submitted to the CSD by governments through their designated national focal points in 1987 and 2002 country profiles prepared for the Earth Summit and the World Summit on Sustainable Development, respectively. The unit is in the process of developing a web-enabled database on national implementation, which will, when completed, significantly facilitate interaction between the UN Secretariat and the national focal points in requesting and submitting future national reports, as well as better provide service to the worldwide users for searching and retrieving specific information. So it starts out, la-di-da, everything's good, everything's pretty, right? But once you start digging into it, okay, decision-making, coordinating body on agriculture, participation of major groups in decision-making, sustainable agriculture and rural development or equivalent, okay? Sustainable agriculture, that's part of what the GMO push is, okay? That GMO, that's part of it. Food security program, soil conservation program, integrated pest management program, farmers, women's education programs and training, soil and land survey databases, conservation of animal and plant genetic resources, research and development, and, okay, I'm going to say this one a little slower, research and development in biotechnology. Let me say that again. Research and development in biotechnology. Better pay close attention to that. Financing and technical assistance for sustainable agriculture. Coordinating body on combating poverty, which we got to combat poverty, but not the way they're wanting to do it. Housing security programs to the poor, which reminds me, I want to bring this up. I'll just say someone I know, they're getting ready for a housing inspection, right? And that's what kind of prompted me to speak about Agenda 21 to begin with this evening. So, it's got to stop. See, in our country, we have something that we call the Bill of Rights. Okay? And, oh my goodness. Nobody's supposed to be able to walk up to your door and knock on it and say, hey, look, I'm with, the people that own your apartment that you're living in, and I'm just going to come in and do an inspection. What happened to this country? I know Illinois laws with rentals and stuff like that is I was managing it was just one apartment, but and I do know that we had to give a notice before I could even go and fix something. Which with the situation, everything was cool. I mean, to be real honest, I could go down there and knock on the door and say, hey, can I hop in and fix this? It's no big deal, but I'm just saying legally, in the state of Illinois, and I can't remember now if it was 24 or 48 hours, which one it was. It's been a little while, a lot of stuff going on since then. So And again, we didn't ever have to really deal with that because it was a little different situation, a little more informal type of situation. And it wasn't a big apartment complex or anything. But anyway, and I know that, and I'm sure that this person got a notice and all that, and it's within that time. But who gives them the right? You know, this is crazy. And I know if you're a landlord out there, you may think, well, that's my property. I have the right to go and look at anything I want when I want. No, not really. You don't. You don't, right? Because that Bill of Rights protects us as individuals, not only from the government, whether it be federal, state, county, local, but it also protects us from other individuals. That was the whole point of it. That was the whole point of it. It was to protect the people. It was so the people could have peace of mind and freedom and, you know, wake up. But anyway, there was another point I was going to make with that, but it's sad what this country has come to. And unfortunately, it's those that are, the lower the income that you have, the worse off that you have it. I mean, now, it's illegal to be homeless in most places. They're picking up, and I don't know where they're taking them. A lot of questioning going on whether or not they're taking them to FEMA camps or whatnot. But now you can't even feed a homeless person in a lot of places because you'll get arrested. It's illegal. It's a crime now to feed them. You know. This is ridiculous, and it's all part of this Agenda 21. And if you will read it, again, there's a lot of pictures there, so I'm not asking you, to do too much of a task here. But if you just read it, pay attention to what's been happening around you, and you'll find out pretty quick that right there's going to be the past, present, and future when you read through that. And there's a lot of other documentation about it on the UN website too. So, definitely look into it. This is some of the most important stuff that you could possibly know. It really is. Because it's going to affect you, it's going to affect your children, it's going to affect every single thing there is. There's a reason why everything in this world is happening the way it's happening. And a big part of it is so that they can implement this. And again, you can think, I ran out of tinfoil. You can think that all you want. But stop being stupid. Stop being ignorant. And I don't mean that offensive. But sticking your head in the sand and not finding out the truth of what is going on. That's the definition. You not knowing of what's going on, that's ignorance. And again, I don't mean any harm when I say that. That is the definition of the word ignorance. But for me and so many others to be trying to tell you and wake you up to what's going on, and you're not listening to it, that is the definition of stupidity. Plain and simple. All the information is out there. All you got to do is check it out. I didn't mean to offend. Lord knows that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to help wake some people up. I'm here to maybe bridge a gap between some people that are having issues with their faith and become closer to God. I'm definitely not here to cause brethren to step away. I meant to say brothers and sisters. I'm sorry. I don't want you to step away. Sometimes some of the things I say might be pretty harsh. Some of it I'm a bit passionate about, especially when it comes to our freedoms. Because that's what the opening Bible chapter was about freedom. Right? It's about freedom. Our personal freedom. Our God-given personal freedom. What you do with that freedom is your choice. Make it a good one. Make it a good one. That's what I got for you tonight, folks. I love you. Hang in there. Be one with your spirit. Take some time out to talk with God. Turn everything off. Take some time out to talk with God. You all have a safe weekend. Have a good night.